Valerie Milano here with Aspiring Magazine and Hollywood Times. And it is my true honor to welcome a woman whose career has not only spanned decades, but defined them. Adrienne Barbeau is a Broadway original, a television trailblazer, and horror icon, and a voice that has shaped and animated generations. Thank you for being here. You're an author who has told her story with candor and courage, from originating Rizzo in Greece to lighting up millions of living rooms on Maude. You've become a legend on genre cinema, In the Fog, Escape from New York, and beyond. And you continually reinvented what it means to endure in this industry. But beyond the accolades, the cult classics, and the iconic roles, Adrienne, you've represented something even more powerful: resilience. You've navigated fame, reinvention, motherhood, artistry, and longevity, all while remaining grounded, thoughtful, and unmistakably yourself. I've had the pleasure of welcoming you into my home for the Aspiring launch celebration just a few months ago. And what struck me most was not that you're a legend, but you're a gracious woman, warm, curious, and present. That's the woman, the artist, the pioneer, the storyteller whom we are honored to feature on the cover of Aspiring magazine. Adrienne, welcome. It feels especially meaningful to have you on the cover of Aspiring magazine, particularly after you were so gracious at the launch party. When you look back over your journey, Broadway, television, horror, voice work, author, what word feels most accurate to describe your career?
Sustained, maybe. I mean, I've been very fortunate to be able to earn a living doing what I love and not ever having to, step outside that and take a day job or anything like that. I don't take that for granted.
That's beautiful. Did you ever imagine that the young woman entertaining troops on a USO tour would become such a multi-generational icon?
No, never, never. We finished that tour and I went to college because I didn't even know people earned a living as actors, I figured I'd get my degree and teach. And then I ended up going to New York and thinking if nothing happens by the time I'm 25, I'll get my degree and teach. But I've been doing it ever since.
Love it. What does it mean to you today to still be working, creating, and connecting fans across generations?
It's the longer it goes on and the more I meet the fans, the more I realize what people in my industry can affect for other people, or how other people, how viewers can be affected by the things we do, which when we're doing it, or at least when I'm doing it, you're not thinking anything. You're just trying to do the best job you can and portray a character. But over the last years, I've had so many people come up and say, oh, the character it's not me, but the character you played in Maude, or the character you played on Catwoman, or Grease, or any of them had an impact on me in hopefully a positive way. So that's one of the things I've learned.
Yeah. You've said you caught the show business bug entertaining troops throughout Southeast Asia. What did that experience teach you about resilience and performance?
It wasn't so much, I don't know that I learned about resilience and performance as I learned an acceptance of all mankind. I realize now it had such an impact on me that I wasn't aware of then, but it sort of made me the person I am in terms of treating everyone equally, believing, understanding that we're all, maybe we're coming from different countries, but we're all the same. I'm not explaining it very well, but
Great.
It gave me an appreciation for everybody.
You were so young when you dropped out of college at 19 to pursue this path. Was that fearless instinct or youthful optimism?
I wasn't afraid.
Obviously not.
Maybe it was hereditary. I come from a long line of strong women survivors. My grandmother was Armenian, escaped, the genocide in Turkey. My mother was a single mom who, just did the work. And when it became clear to me that what I needed to do was go to New York to see if I could have a career, well, that's what you do. So I just went. I didn't know a soul. I didn't know, maybe I didn't know enough to be worried or terrified or, I don't know now if I want to pick up and move to a totally strange place with no friends, but it was just that's what you needed to do if you wanted to accomplish what you were trying to accomplish.
Well, on that note, when you moved to New York and worked your way into Broadway, what were those early years really like? The struggle, the girl?
When I first got there, I went to the Barbizon Plaza, but it was expensive. It was $8 a day, I think. And I soon learned that I needed to move to the YWCA because it was only $3 a day or something. I still remember that. And then I walked the entire length and breadth of Manhattan answering ads for roommates, and finally ended up with 2 roommates in a very nice apartment, only 1 bedroom. And one of the roommates turned out to be taking money to spend nights with men.
Oh boy.
And the other one turned out to be an alcoholic.
Okay.
And so it was an introduction to living as a 19-year-old in New York. And then the auditions, I know now, I see young actors now who come into audition who are so much more ready and so much, maybe not talented, but certainly ready than I ever was. And when I think about it now, I think, oh my gosh, how did I ever? But I stuck with it. I certainly wasn't as prepared as so many people around me.
Well, looking back now, what do you wish young performers understood about those formative years? You have to want this profession more than anything, because you don't know if it's ever going to work. You don't, what is it? I think 5% of SAG actors make over $5,000 a year or something. It's not an easy business. And the other thing, the really most important thing probably is don't take it personally. I'm still, even at my age, auditioning for things, and the producer is coming back and said, "You were fantastic. We're going a different direction." So you can't take it personally. If you're talented enough and prepared enough to do the work, then just because they don't hire you doesn't mean you're not good. It means they wanted somebody who was taller or shorter or had a different look about them. So that's really, and also, and I think this is really important, don't believe that your only value is in doing the work. You are valuable if you never act again. I see, so many actors who, when they're in between jobs or when it's not happening, don't understand that they just have value because they're a human being and they're a good person. Beautiful. I'm going to shift gears here. You originated Betty Rizzo in Greece. That's iconic. What did Rizzo unlock in you as an actress?
Isn't that interesting? Well, she certainly gave rise to the rest of my career, because I was nominated for a Tony, and Norman Lear came to see it, and that led to Maude, which then led to all the other television work, which then led to film and all of that. What did she unlock in me as an actress? She gave me my closest friends. The actors from Greece are still my closest friends, and we talk. We've lost several recently, but we talk all the time, and they were my support group all these years.
Yeah, Broadway in the 70s was raw and electric. What was that era like? The creativity part.
Well, the Grease that we did bears very little resemblance to the Grease that is being done these days. It was much more raw, much more raunchy, much more realistic. I was fortunate enough. I got Maude just maybe 5 months after we opened in Greece, so I was out of New York by 1972. My experience of Broadway was more in the late 60s, doing Fiddler on the Roof. And it was wonderful. I mean, it was just, you had a job, you had a contract. You could go to Bloomingdale's and get a credit card, because here was a piece of paper that said you were employed for a year at least, because Fiddler was a huge show, And then Grease. It was also a great time if you weren't modest. It was the time of the nudie musicals. True. And that's what probably gave me a lot of it gave me a lot of exposure, but it gave me a lot of belief in myself, because I ended up doing an off-Broadway musical that had nudity in it, but I was the star of the show. I was singing and dancing 13 numbers, one of them upside down on a raked bed with no clothes on. And, you can do that. You can probably do anything.
Yeah.
It was an interesting time.
If you could speak to that young Adrienne stepping onto that stage for the first time, what would you tell her?
Onto that stage, onto the
whichever stage, growing up,
God, I'd like to tell her, if I were speaking from now, I'd like to tell her then, stay with it, because it's going to give you almost the greatest joy in your life. I mean, the greatest joy is my kids, but it's gonna be your raison d'être.
Lovely, lovely. So now we're going to talk about this. Playing Carol Traynor on Maude put you in millions of living rooms. Did you realize at the time how groundbreaking that show was?
I did not realize at the time. I had never watched very much television, because I was always doing stage. I had heard before I went for the audition that Norman Lear had this new show called All in the Family that was very, popular and sort of controversial and everything. But no, I don't know if, I guess we knew at some point once we were on the air, but when we first started doing it, I didn't have anything to compare it to, really, because I hadn't seen a lot of the other sitcoms. I soon became aware and very proud and grateful that I was involved in something that wasn't just pratfalls and, not that there isn't a place for that in comedy, farce or whatever, but that we were having an effect on people. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, some of that effect has dribbled down and disappeared, but and I was so proud to be involved with a show that had some social significance.
Beautiful. I know we spoke before we went on air about a little bit about B. Arthur and memorizing lines.
Yes.
But and you spoken beautifully about her. What did she teach you about professionalism and generosity?
B was, we would always have a table read of the next week's script. And the new actors, the day players, people who had maybe 5 lines or people who were going to be starring or whatever, come into the rehearsal hall. B was the first one out of her chair to go to the door. I still can see her. She'd go up to whoever it was and say, "Hi, come on in," and bring them to the table. I took it for granted at the time because I had never done television. We all came from theater, so we all had a strong sense of professionalism. But it wasn't until later when I started guesting on other shows, and it wasn't always like that, you know. It was, you just sort of go in and sit down, and everybody would start reading their lines, and nobody. B was so gracious and so giving.
Sweet.
And what was important to B, I've said this 1,000 times, but what was important to B was the success of the show, not her stardom or her success. It was what was going to make the show the best it possibly could.
Love that. You once joked that people weren't listening to your lines. They were watching your breasts.
I think that was my second husband who said that. But I remember when Maude first aired, the first night, and people started calling me afterwards, and, "Oh, you looked fantastic, you looked great, you looked beautiful, you looked this, you looked that," and I'm thinking, but was I funny? You know, that's what I was interested in. Was I funny? And it was about the time I was writing my memoir when Billy Van Zandt, my second husband, said to me, "You know, nobody was listening to you. They were watching you walk down the stairs." Well, whatever. It worked.
I mean, how did you navigate being both taken seriously as an actress and objectified as a sex symbol?
I certainly never saw myself as a sex symbol. And what was important to me was acting, was finding the character, being believed, being honest, whatever. And actually, if you look at my career, I mean, the first love scene I ever had was with Swamp Thing, you know? And the only really, well, maybe I did do sort of a sexy part in a television film called Houdini. I was his mistress. But the only other film that I can think of, or project that I can think of that I did where I had been hired for something other than my talent, was Cannonball Run, you know, because they put us in the jumpsuits and we used our abilities, our physical abilities, to get out of getting the ticket and all that. But I never saw myself that way, and maybe that helped when I went into audition for things. And because I started out playing such strong women, that I'm almost, maybe I was a leading lady, but almost a character actor in that way, because, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Okay, we're going to shift gears again. Your film debut in The Fog launched you into the horror legend status. Did you sense that genre fans would embrace you for decades?
No, I didn't know anything about the genre, first of all. I'm not a horror fan. I'd never gone to see anything. When John Carpenter, to whom I was engaged, handed me this screenplay, I thought, what is this? I mean, this isn't socially significant, you know. This is a ghost story. It's not China Syndrome or Coming Home or anything that's important. But I love the character, and I love John. And of course but none of us in those days, well, in the first place, we barely had Betamax, I guess. We certainly didn't have streaming. Maybe VHS was just coming out. But none of us realized that 40 years later, people would still be watching these films weekly sometimes and loving them.
Mm-hmm.
You're not thinking about that when you're making a movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know? It's been fantastic, but it wasn't something that anybody was considering.
And obviously, working with John Carpenter on multiple films, what made him such a strong collaborator for you?
Well, John is a brilliant director, and he knows horror. He really knows horror. We met on an earlier television film where I played the first gay woman on screen. And so we knew each other as a director and actress before we ever went on to have a romance and get married and everything. So I knew going into The Fog or any of the others that I could trust him completely as a director, because that's how I met him. And I learned from him, and I think he trusted me. He has the facility as a director to hire the right people. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things that really has carried throughout his career.
Thank you, Adrienne, for talking about John and Billy. Escape from New York and Creepshow remain cult classics. What do horror fans understand about storytelling that mainstream audiences sometimes overlook, do you think?
That's an interesting question. You know, I almost have to... I wonder what... Horror has changed a lot since we did the movies in the 80s. I mean, I just finished 2 horror films. But there also, what has come in has been these slasher films, and the screenplay that comes along where 5 people are killed in the first 3 pages in the most grotesque, unimaginable, bloody ways. Those aren't horror films. I mean, those aren't things I want to do. So I don't know. But I do know that the horror community, they're incredible fans.
Yeah.
They love to be scared.
You know, at a time when Hollywood could feel like a flesh market, how do you maintain your own agency? I know you've been working on films, horror films.
Maybe I was naive. Maybe I was ignorant. Maybe I wasn't aware of it. Or maybe the first couple of times where there was ever even a hint of an invitation or something, I just shut it down, because what are you talking about? You're married or whatever,
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, because, becoming an icon, feels empowering. Did you have to fight for depth in those roles?
I had to fight because originally I was seen as a musical comedy actor.
True. Yeah.
And then I'm doing Maude. Now I'm a comedian, or I'm a sitcom actor. And I can't even be seen for a dramatic role. And then I did get hired for a Quincy, which was a very dramatic role. And now suddenly, okay, I'm a television actress. In 1978, when we finished Maude and I had done the film with John, the TV movie, if you were doing television in 1978, you couldn't be seen for film because producers felt like nobody's going to pay to see you in the theater if they can see you for free every Tuesday night. Had it not been that John offered me this movie, I don't know how much longer it would have been, or if I would have been able to break through. It's totally different now. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's totally different now. But that was I guess you'd say that was the challenge. It was the thing that was limiting in terms of expanding.
So much to talk to you about. Your voice as Catwoman in Batman, the animated series, it introduced you to a whole new genre. What is it about voice acting that you love?
oh, I don't have to put on makeup. I don't have to get dressed. I don't have to worry about how my hair looks. And it's just fun. And it's just fun. And you get to work with wonderful people. And it's a different, in some ways, I take it for granted, but it is a different talent. But, you know, when you get a call to go play a 90-year-old French maid who's having a sex scene with Carol Traynor, you race to the studio, except Carl wasn't there. And so so I'm by myself on the microphone making sex sounds in French, you know, but it's just so much fun.
Hilarious.
Plus, you don't have to sit around all day waiting for the 30 seconds, you know. I do enjoy it. I do enjoy it. I just finished. I've got a recurring role on 2 new cartoons that I can't talk about yet because they haven't been released. Okay. But it's just great fun.
Yeah, yeah. So now we got HBO's Carnival to Argo. You've never stopped evolving. How do you decide what roles to say yes to?
Well, I have to be offered, or I have to have the audition, and there are some that are just no. I don't want to do this. I don't like the material, or it's not even spelled right. So if the writer doesn't have enough, you know, respect for the craft to put it through spell check, what am I gonna, you know, where is that gonna take us? That, I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous, but sometimes it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't even make sense. What I look for is, well, I certainly look for, I mean, I tend to play strong characters, but I look for a character that I believe in, that is logical, in a screenplay that is logical, that makes sense. What I don't take are the movies that I mentioned where, you know, 37 people are getting killed.
Yeah.
I had an offer for a film years ago, up and coming, really great director. I mean, you know, in the horror genre, and I read 20 pages of it, and I said, I can't do this. I can't do this. I wouldn't want my kids to see this in this movie. The movie went on to huge success, and I ran into somebody at one of the autograph signing conventions who was just like, he had a line out the door, and I said, Bill, what are you doing? What movie is this? He said, oh, I did that's the one I turned down. But you know what? All the money in the world wasn't, and it's a great film for the horror audience, not for me.
Well, speaking of kids, and probably, like you said, one of your favorite subjects, you became a mother of twins at almost 52, and famously joked about being the only AARP member in the maternity ward.
Yes.
What did motherhood later in life teach you?
Well, I already had my older son, Cody Carpenter. So, and I'm glad that I had Cody first, because that, having a singleton is a different experience. With the twins, you know, they were entertaining themselves oftentimes, and I wasn't always down on the floor, you know, building the Legos because they were doing it. But what did it teach me at that age? Well, I learned how to nurse both kids while I was sleeping. You know? I mean, you pile up those pillows and you can go back to sleep.
Beautiful. Your life has included love, marriage, divorce, creative partnerships. How has personal growth influenced your work?
A lot. And was always very important to me, even from the time I hit New York, when I suddenly realized I had things that were keeping me back, or things that I hadn't dealt with, or, you know, if it was in romantic relationships, or if it was in my career. Big proponent of therapy, or finding, or of growth, of personal growth. And I've pulled it from a lot of places, but
Yeah, well, you have an autobiography. When you reflect on that, it's called There Are Worse Things I Could Do. Is there a chapter you would write differently today?
no, I don't think so. I did go back because the memoir was published in 2006, and I don't know when it was, maybe, oh no, maybe 5 or 6, 7 or 8 years later, my publisher asked me to update it for digital, because some people had passed or my marriage had ended or whatever, and so I did a little bit there. But no, I don't think I would write anything differently. No.
Is there anything that you hope younger actresses might learn from your journey reading your book, especially about maybe longevity?
Well, I wrote it in 2006, so that's, my God, that's 20 years ago, isn't it?
Oh my, yes it is.
Yeah,
Time flies
so
when
I
you're
didn't know
having
what
fun.
my longevity
Yes.
was then. I think there is something to be learned from the last book that I wrote, or I co-wrote and edited, which is called Grease, Tell Me More, for actresses and actors, because it is a collection of stories that we garnered from all of the actors who had done the Broadway production of Grease and the national company and the touring companies, and didn't realize it at the time we were putting together, but after we had put it together and other people were saying to us, oh my God, every young actor should read this, because it's all the actors talking about their audition, what they went through, if they got hired, how they felt about getting hired, if they got fired, if they're going through rehearsals. And so I realized in retrospect, it's a fun, aside, if you're just interested in Grease, it's fun. But if you're also interested, if you're just getting started in the business, it gives you a view from a lot of actors of what it's like. So
I love that. And okay, a little birdie put a little something in my ear about Bette Midler. What do you know? Yeah.
Bette and I did Fiddler on the Roof together on Broadway for about 2 years, I think. And John Savage, who your audience would know from Deer Hunter and from Carnival. But Bette was in the show. She played the elder daughter, Seidel, and she was in the show when I was hired. So I got to watch her performance for the first 2 weeks of rehearsals for me. And she was brilliant. She brought me to tears every night. And there was no question in my mind when she first started coming into the dressing room with her song list. No, that's not what she called it. Well, it was the list of songs she was good. She had started creating the Divine Miss M. Yeah. And she'd come in every night. Okay, it's this. Listen to my song list, whatever. Am I Blue? And she started, and there was never a question in my mind. People have asked me that she was going to be the huge superstar that she is.
Yeah, she is, no doubt.
A brilliant talent.
Thank you for that information. Would have loved talking to you so much
Thank
today.
you.
Is there anything else you would like to tell our readers and our viewers today?
I'm really excited about a film that I have coming up called Oddities. Now, we made a short film during the pandemic with the same title. The only thing that carried through to the feature is the writer-director, Tyler Savage, and my character's profession in both the short film and in the feature. She is the proprietor of an antique store that carries oddities, some strange oddities. That's the only similarity. But I'm really excited about it. We've had 7 offers to premiere it at various film festivals. We're still looking for the right one here in the U.S. And it was just a coming together of great words on the page, a great director. As it turns out, and it had nothing to do with me. I didn't even know about it, but my older son was hired to compose the score.
Ow.
Because the director was a huge fan of Cody Carpenter's. And I'm just really looking forward to that one. And I just finished another one right before Christmas, more of a horror film. Well, more of a, what was Exorcist? More of an exorcism kind of film called Hannah Goes to Hell. And, that was a Fast and Furious film, but I'm waiting to see what that looks like, and I'm sort of excited about that one. And we'll see what else comes next.
Adrienne, you're so wonderful to talk to. How can everyone find you? Do you do social media? Do you have a website?
I have a website, abarbeau.com. I have a Facebook page that I don't ever use.
Okay.
But I do have an Instagram page that I always use. And I think it's lowercase Adrienne _Barbeau on Instagram.
Good
I'm
for
not on
you.
TikTok. I'm not on Threads.
Okay.
All
right. Wonderful. It's such a gift this conversation has been. Your journey reminds us that a career is not built on a single moment, but on courage, reinvention, humor, grit, and heart. You have shown us that longevity is not about chasing relevance. It is about staying authentic. It is about evolving without losing yourself. From Broadway stages to television history, from cult cinema to motherhood, from memoir to voice work, you continue to inspire generations who are still discovering you for the first time. Thank you for your artistry, your honesty, and your example. Most of all, thank you for continuing to aspire. It has been an honor. It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you.
Valerie Milano here, the HollywoodTimes.today and AspiringMagazine.com. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Big fan.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay.